Fascinating. Yamiche Alcindor wrote a great piece for the New York Times. It's February 20. Yeah, it's in today's edition of the New York Times. 2 days before Election Day, she writes, Donald J. Trump traveled to Sioux City, Iowa, and proclaimed that he was the protector of federal programs aimed at helping elderly and low-income Americans. It was Hillary Clinton, he said, who was an untrustworthy steward of the working class and who would slash vital benefits. And I am going to protect and save your Social Security and your Medicare, Mr. Trump said. You made a deal a long time ago. And then she writes, the pledge followed earlier promises to enact a paid maternity leave benefit and not to make cuts in Medicaid, the health insurance program for working poor. But then she points out that, he has surrounded himself with people who are just saying the exact opposite. These so-called traditional Republicans, traditional conservatives. Now, you have to understand, conservative used to mean something in this country. Prior to the 1980s, conservative meant, yes, we want to move forward. We want to improve the country. I mean, Dwight Eisenhower is a classic example of this, building the interstate highway system. We want to move forward. We want to, have progress, but we want to do so in a thoughtful and careful way. We want to plan things out. We want to get a broad consensus. We want to make sure that, this is we use this word, a conservative approach, right? A careful approach. Well, in the 1980s, Reagan redefined the word conservative. Conservative, ever since the Reagan administration, means in the pocket of the billionaires and the big corporations. It's really just that simple. The things that used to be done in the name of conservatism are, aren't being done anymore. It was conservatives who pushed for the Environmental Protection Agency. But, now it's inconvenient for the Coke Industries and ExxonMobil and all these other big companies. And so, we get Scott Pruitt, who's been working with Devon Energy. The emails are out there now. And it's clear that this guy's just a total lapdog, a toady for the most polluting industries in the United States. And he's running the EPA. Dwight Eisenhower bragged in 1956 when he ran for re-election. This was the Republican president, the last really conservative, honest conservative Republican president. When he ran for re-election in 1956, you could easily find this online. In fact, read the Republican Party's platform in 56. They brag about the fact that they've expanded Social Security. They brag about the fact that over 1 million new people have become union members. There was, labor for Ike was, it was like, and it wasn't because Republicans wanted to destroy unions like it is now. I don't want to pay the damn union dues. My pay is low enough as it is. Well, that's, I've got a piece on Alternet today about that. It's because of the tax cuts. I did that rant earlier in the week, so I'll spare you. But this is, nowadays, conservative / Republican simply means, we want to take Social Security, which has got a $2.5 trillion trust fund, and put that in the hands of Wall Street so that our buddies in Wall Street can skim 1% off the top and make themselves multi-billionaires, and they can, skim 1/100% off and give it back to us Republicans in the form of campaign contributions and ads. You got here in the D.C. market, we're seeing every day on all the cable networks these ads with this young woman who used to clerk for Gorsuch. And, paid for by one of these right-wing networks. And of course, he's going to be corporate friendly. We got Tom Price, who's the head of HHS. He wants to convert Medicaid to strictly capped block grants, right, to the states, and turn Medicare into a voucher program. You got Ben Carson running HUD. He has repeatedly said government programs that help the poor lead to dependency, to paraphrase Ms. Alcindor, Yamiche Alcindor. In fact, at the end of her piece, she quotes William Galston, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. He says, the last time we saw this kind of budgetary logic was at the beginning of the Reagan administration when he came into office, pledged to beef up defense spending and cut taxes. They tried to keep the spending increases down and the deficit increases down by whacking away at social safety net programs, many of which were cut during that period. How many times have I said this is the Reagan administration all over again? It's the Reagan administration without the class. It's the Reagan administration without Hollywood. It's the Reagan administration, a gauche version of the Reagan administration. And we're going to see the same thing. Steve Mnuchin is out there talking about, yeah, we got to put together a tax package. You know, the new billionaire Goldman Sachs guy who's now our Treasury Secretary. Yeah, we got to cut taxes, right? You cut taxes on working people, you lower their wages. You cut taxes on rich people, you raise their wealth. So, of course, the Republicans want to cut taxes. And they want to cut corporate taxes. Oh, we have the highest marginal tax rate in the world for corporations. Well, it's not quite true, but it is higher than most of the other countries in the developed world. But nobody pays it. I would not object to a corporate tax reform that lowered the top rate but closed the loopholes. But that's not going to happen under Republicans. They're simply going to lower the top rate. They love those loopholes. They want to keep the whole thing exactly the way it is. So, Donald Trump's promises notwithstanding, what this is, when this stuff starts to happen, right now, his going after immigrants and all that kind of stuff, it's like, that's okay with his base. They don't, in fact, they like that. But with this other stuff coming, do away with your Social Security, really?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And let's blow up the Affordable Care Act and replace it with, let's see, health savings accounts and disaster policy insurance, right? Come on.